Did you do that? Okay, good.
A minute in the hot corner.
Not until you talk about fees.
Okay. Anybody else? Rebecca, you want to wait or you,
Only when you talk about items.
okay? All right. So there's no reports from the district manager.
All right, I've had 3 days on the job, so I can't tell you I have everything completely under control, but I asked to be on the agenda today to speak about foreclosures because I think a big financial decision coming up for you here very soon. I also would like to add some comments about, well, the last 3 days I've been doing a few day-to-day things, but also looking at the financial situation. And I had some reservations about being perfectly frank this morning, partly because, we're looking for somebody to come over this role, and I'm really looking forward to it. And what you're going to hear me say in my assessment of the financial situation, you're not going to like to hear. Um, we're not at any crisis, but the last couple of years we've been headed on the road to real serious problems if we don't turn something around here. I mean, 22 budget looked good. It was a very reasonable budget. But then when you look at where it ended up at the end of the year, way over the budget. 23, worse yet, major over expenditures. And now we have a 2024 budget that has $1.7 million deficit in Brad. I mean, a certain amount of that, quite a bit of it is capital, and I can't make a judgment on how much of that is really necessary and appropriate, but what concerns me most is the operating budget. The total budget is 40% over income. Just operating is 20% over income. So whether you're running a household or a business or anything else, if your expenses are 20%, you can start putting up 20% more than you got coming in. I mean, that can't go on for very long. Now, when I look at, it seems to me that the financial controls here have been seriously deficient. And in every organization I'm familiar with, a budget is an appropriation. It's the governing body said, this is the budget, this is what you're authorized to spend. Here's that was completely ignored here. The spending went way over the budget the last 2 years, and nobody said anything. Well, I don't know. I don't attend these meetings, so I don't know who said what. I don't know if you're aware, but it's a state law that the state has to be budgeted, has to be balanced on the budget. The state law is that a city has to have a balanced budget. A business, unless it's like a startup and they're expecting things to turn around and they've got to get their product to market and build, but we're not that kind of a situation. We're a mature operation. And when I see that our expenses are 20% more than our income for 24, what's going to be different in 25? We've got to change something, and we've got to start changing it now. So I've spoken with Jennifer, our accountant, about all of this, and I think she and I are in complete agreement on the situation. And we're in agreement that this budget is just junk. It seems to me that it was done so poorly. I mean, I've been involved in many times in budgeting for business and nonprofits. And every time it kind of unfolds the same way, is that you ask each department head, what do you need for next year? And then you always add it up, and there's not enough money for all of that. So you gotta look at the income. So where can we get more income? You either have to get more income, or you have to cut some of this, because, you gotta keep an ongoing business. Seems to me, you did first step here, you went out and asked everybody what they need, and needs is kind of a gray area. There's almost, very little that it's life or death. You can cut any of that and life will go on. And there's hardly any of it that's complete fluff without any merit at all. There's a whole lot of it that's kind of in that band of vital versus, you get along without it. That's what has to be winnowed down. And when I look at the sequence of events here, back in November, they adopted this budget. And then the next month, he came in and said, well, what should the assessment be? Well, you had to do that, you had to do that at the front end. That had to be before you approved the budget. And now today we have on the agenda, what should the amenity be? Well, that's your income. You needed to look at that, way back earlier to come up with how you can come up with a reasonable budget. So, I think it's a terrible mess, and I think you really need to start the budget over. You gotta start on it, you haven't finished. And you should, do an amended budget. Now, it's a tough task, and one that I don't intend to start, because I don't intend to be here very long at all. But I think you need to consider that should be on the agenda. Every other organization, like I mentioned, a city is required by law to have a balanced budget. And the budget is an appropriation. If administration, you can never have perfect foresight on what's going to be coming, and things will happen where, the budget didn't provide for. But when that happens, administration has to come in and say, oops, if you want us to continue doing these things, you gotta appropriate more money. That's what's done. That's what's done. The federal government isn't any model for budgeting, but that's the stage they're at right now. There's some things they want to do, the administration wants to do, but unless Congress appropriates the funds, they can't do it. You ought to have the same kind of policy for the district. Demand that they stick to their budgets. If they can't stick to it, to come here and ask authority for more money, ask for more appropriation. It's kind of a mess right now, and I hate to scare off somebody that might want to take on this job, but you don't want somebody that's going to be afraid to take on a tough job and provide some leadership to get this thing on the right road. My only advice for right now is this is it's a bad problem. And if anything in the near term here, if you're thinking about any changes that would reduce our income, it'll only make it worse. You have to say no. If there's anything that's on the agenda that's going to increase expenses, you're already in a bad situation. You have to say no. So, and maybe you should put something in the regulations that say you expect a balanced budget, and if that, if they aren't making it, they need to clearly come back and explain what they need, more they need, and get authorization. I asked you to talk about the foreclosures, because that impacts our budget substantially. It's been a horrible drag on the district for a long time, and I've got some information I want to share with you. Can you put one up, please?
We're working on that.
No.
My whole taskbar disappeared.
Yeah, okay, well, just let me go ahead. You won't be able to see all the numbers, but I've got it all there. It's been a terrible situation for about 12 years, and it was all pretty much set off by the failure of National Recreation Properties way back in 2005 through 7. They acquired thousands of lots. We thought it was gonna be a great thing. They had a national marketing campaign. They brought people in, and they were selling lots like crazy, and we thought it was wonderful. The trouble is, most of the lots that they sold were on contract, with $500 down, high interest, and when the recession hit, they all just said, I'm not getting anywhere. Actually, I think they really misrepresented the situation. They sold them as investment opportunities. I'm ashamed to say I was a part of that operation way back then. And my job was to chauffeur people back to the hotel after they had their hard sales pitch. And so I had chatted with most of them. Well, it was mostly New York people, Florida people, California people, and they've been led to believe the company was very careful to avoid the legality of advising them as an investment, but they made it, between the lines, this is going to be an investment opportunity, and it turned out that not at all. And then they went bankrupt. Well, they held these lots. The district had exempted them from assessment, so they could hold them. And about 2011, with some challenges we were involved in, we discovered that our old assessment of benefits was faulty, and we had to do a new assessment of benefits. And when we were exploring that, we found out that it was improper, illegal, it was unauthorized for the district to have ever exempted anyone from assessments. So that led to all of those lots that the developer, Holiday Island Development Corporation, had was untenable. He couldn't pay assessments. All those lots, that recreation property went bankrupt. They gave they sold all the lots to Tom Dees, who then couldn't pay taxes or assessments. So they all just dumped into, all abandoned basically. And the district couldn't possibly afford to pay taxes on thousands of lots to hold them. So the district didn't pay taxes. So all of them go into a foreclosure site. And became a target for, I'd say scam artists, nothing illegal. But these distressed land companies would buy them up cheap on the tax sales and try to resell them. In the meantime, the cost of holding those things was prohibitive between assessments and taxes, so they never paid any taxes or assessments. So it's only a matter of time. If they don't sell it in 4 years, when it'll be foreclosed for unpaid taxes, or I said foreclosed for unpaid assessments. It just goes back to the system of round and round and round and round. Now, back the tax foreclosure and the assessment foreclosures are very similar. I mean, we file a complaint and we often, we say either pay up or else this is going to be sold at auction. So the process is pretty much the same, although the results are worlds apart. The district, when we file foreclosure, there'll be 4 years of back assessment. So, for a vacant lot, that's going to be $3,000 or $4,000. And not only that, there'll be all the back taxes. So there's another $500, $600, $700. So it's a lot of money for for just some lot out somewhere. So none of them sell. We shouldn't say none, but basically none of ours sell at foreclosure. Plus, when we sell one, it's subject to a 2-year redemption of the former owner. So there's basically nothing you can do with it for 2 years because it might be redeemed. So the county is an entirely different picture. They put those up for auction, and the starting bid is the back tax, which is typically like $500 for these lots. 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 or 5 years delinquent. And they 100% sell at least the last few years. So the county gets 100% of their taxes due. And actually, they have been getting a bonus on top of that. Because in recent years, with property real estate being a pretty strong market, there's been some competitive bidding on those tax sales. So they'll be bid up, quite a few will bid up above the back taxes. And that's called excess proceeds. Now, the former owner can claim those excess proceeds, and thanks to Carrie and Regina, last year, HISA filed for those excess proceeds. I think we got something like $8,000. All the prior years, that just went back to the county. So the county got all their taxes, they got all the excess proceeds. So it has really been good for the county, just terrible for HISA. Now, back in mid 29, I think it was, I'm aware of, we first became aware of a court case in Arkansas, a Supreme Court case actually, called the Carriage Creek, Pulaski County versus Carriage Creek, where it was ruled all the way up to the Supreme Court that a lot foreclosed for non-payment of assessments in an improvement district was exempt from county taxes while it's held by the district. And when we became aware of that, our attorney went to the county and said, look at this, you need to be. And they said, no, that doesn't apply. I was on board at that time, and I was so frustrated. Subsequently, nothing happened. I introduced a motion to this board to file a lawsuit to force the county to recognize that order. That resolution passed 3-2. There was a lot of folks upset about that because they said, why do we want to start a fight with the county? Well, for good reason. So this is a memo that our district manager at that time wrote to our attorney, said the board had authorized me to go ahead with a lawsuit, do it. Well, he didn't do it. Nothing was done. And that was about the end of my rope on the board. And so when later on, when Suzanne Childers became chairman and Danny Presley became the new manager, I thought, let's take another run at this, because I had a lot of respect for Suzanne. She was a friend, and I knew she would listen and was smart. So she and I and Danny met, and I presented them with the information. They asked our attorney Hutchinson to go ahead with that. It was a slam bam. The county really didn't even have any answer to our complaint, and the judge did a summary judgment and said they're exempt. And subsequently, I sent a note to Suzanne. I said, yeah, that was great, but back taxes, it's not going to cover, it'll cover, it's exempt while HISA holds it, but when HISA requires them from a previous owner hadn't paid the taxes. Because if they're not paying assessments, they're sure as heck not paying taxes. So I sent a note to Suzanne and says, you got to be prepared. That's going to be all for nothing if you don't pay the back taxes. Then I sent, in May, I discovered on the Commissioner of State Land's website that all those lots were coming up for tax sale. And I said, if you don't pay the back taxes, which amounted to $86,000, they're just going to go back in and be recycled. And nothing was done. So they all sold for taxes for $86,000 plus at the tax sale, and they're all in the hands of speculators. Well, I shouldn't say all. Few people buy them because they want the lot next door, but for the most part, it's speculators that are. Actually, on my street, there's 2 lots that are owned by, well, at least the billing address is Puerto Rico. I mean, they know for nothing about this. Um, Now, we, last year, 2022, we foreclosed on 200 and some lots. And, I've been watching the, Commissioner of State Land's website. Yeah, well, Terry and Regina went and lived with the county and they said, oh yeah, we're recording those as exempt. Well, actually, they recorded them. I went back, recently and checked those that were, those that we foreclosed in 22. And they show the 23, taxes, not exempt, but paid. I don't know, we didn't pay anything, they mark it as paid. But you look down and the previous, delinquent. Terry and, well, they are going to be out for the tax sale in July, I think it's 19th of this year. And it's going to be, 136 lots was $86,000. 200 lots are going to be $100 and some thousand. So we're going to have to make the decision. Do we want to file a redemption deed to get those out of that auction or not? And I mean, that's a big bite. But, folks say, well, we've foreclosed on hundreds, if not thousands of lots, and people think, well, so we've got thousands of lots, we ought to do something with them. Well, we don't have them. Because when we got them, in a couple of years, the taxes, they go back into the system. And those that we acquired recently are subject to 2-year redemption, so you really can't do anything with those. If you do the redemption deed on these, on the 200 or so that were foreclosed in 2022, clear side, and you can hold them as long as it takes, not be involved in more foreclosures or tax sales with those lots. You can make them available for people to hold and build. Next one, please. There's one other, this is one of the, earlier I showed those. Oddly enough, the county started their filing with the state with deeds that were redeemed. And this happens to be one of them. Let me just tell you about this one. It was acquired back in 2005 by National Recreation Properties. They bought it for $4,000 from a private owner who had been paying their assessments, and then they sold it to this Violet St. Jean for $20,000 in 2007. And you might think, wow, what a whopper of a deal. They must be making bundles of money. The thing is, they had national advertising. They flew those people up here, put them in a fine hotel, fed them, and they were able to sell it for $20,000 with Violet St. Jean probably expectation. She happens to be in Florida. Somehow she neglected to pay her assessment, so I said foreclosed on her. You can see the commissioner's deed in 2019. And then she said, oops, that slipped my mind, so she redeemed it. And so now the state, and she paid her taxes in 2022, she paid her taxes in 2023, but the state has sent it now, the county has sent it to the state to collect the 2 years of taxes that HISA didn't pay while we had it on foreclosure. So she is soon going to get a notice that that's coming up for tax sale in July. If she doesn't redeem it, it'll be sold for those back taxes. It's probably going to be about $400 or something like that. So her $20,000 investment is going to go out the window. The tax sales are quite a bit different than our foreclosure sales, and there's 30-day redemption. So on July 19th, that will sell. It's a quite nice lot on Twin Peaks. Quite nice, but most of the lots in Twin Peaks are quite nice. So she falls asleep at the switch and lets that go to the tax auction for $400. Then she'll have 30 days to redeem it, and then it is over, absolutely over. So, next one, please. What? I think we're going the wrong way, aren't we?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Go next one, please.
Next.
Yeah. One of the other issues here is that holding a lot at Highstead and Holiday Island is expensive. I mean, owning a house and, living here, it's a really good deal. But just to hold a lot, it's not all that attractive. You have to pay assessments of $480, plus you have to pay taxes. And, we say taxes aren't that bad, but the taxes are unrealistic, really. And both of the lots on both sides of me are vacant lots, and both have been foreclosed by Highstead twice. Both have gone to tax sales twice. The last time one went to tax sale, I bought it. And this is that lot that I bought in 2022. It had been, county said a tax value, a market value of $19,000, which cost me in taxes $182.89, plus the $480 that I paid at Highstead. When they reassessed a year ago, I filed an appeal. I said, this is crazy. There's no way that lot is worth $19,000. So I went to the board and I I had a letter from the former owner offering to me for $1,000, and he wasn't able to sell it. Of course, by that time he had so much back taxes and assessments that it was ridiculous. But I went to the board and I was lightly stunned. I started, I said $1,900 what it's worth. I thought I was starting way low and it would be some kind of negotiation. They said, okay. So now I paid $18.28. I've been aware of this issue for a long time. In fact, when I was on the board, I had I'd introduced a resolution that Highstead ought to appeal the assessment for the lots that it owns, because most of these that are vacant lots, it's completely unrealistic. I think the benchmark was set back when there was heavy promotion here. And I mean, if you're flying people in and wining and dining them, you can sell them for more money than you could in this kind of market. So the benchmark was set. And if you're trying to sell something, having this behind you, the county record that says the market value is so-and-so, really to your advantage. If you're trying to hold something, an inflated market value and inflated taxes are just a downer. And I think that's something that discourages people from holding. You can't do anything about that now, but the next time they do an assessment, and I said, if you pay the back taxes, you'll own free and clear at least 200 lots. You're perfectly eligible to go down there and say, but actually when I went in there and it said, this is, I had evidence, it's nice. They said to me, well, what are we going to do about all the other lots in Unit 8? I said, well, I don't know. That's not my issue. And there's, everyone is different, so I'm not going to tell you what to do about that. But I think if Highstead would take some action and do some corrections about this, I think it would pervade broadly. So that's my story at this moment. Thank you for indulging me for maybe too long.
Bruce, thank you very much for doing that. You helped me over the years. I've been on the board 7 years going into the 8th. And I'm not a finance man. I'm an educator. I know how to teach teachers and so forth. That's been my job. folks. This is a hard job, but two of us, at least on this board, objected to some of the spending that was going on. And one of them is over on the aisle, the rec center. But there was other things that we should have said no to. And that's why we're in the condition we're in right now. And I mentioned at the last meeting, you go out and buy a car, it's $40,000. You only have $20,000 to spend. You do one of two things. Don't buy the car, or you buy one that costs $20,000. Or you go into debt for it. Well, as Bruce just brought out very clearly, we've been doing that. And I've got the figures here that he sent to us, and it's bad news. It is not. But we're going to have to make some tough decisions. Some people are going to be PO'd, put out at us for these things. One of them is the fees coming up. I was going to suggest that. I'm not going to make a motion on that, on the golf fees coming up. Because every $100 or every $1,000 we reduce, as he just said very well, we're going to have to make up somewhere else. Raise the assessment, and what happens? We get a lawsuit, $50. $50.
7%.
7% or $50, whatever it is. And what do? We try to get more income, but we've overspent that. That $155,000 gone because of overspent. We've got to cut the budget. We're going to make people unhappy. I don't care. If you like what I do, recall me. But it's very complex. I'm not a CPA. My wife reconciles our checking account. I don't do that. I've got some other skills, but when you're on this board, we need business people on it. We need finance. And I try to do the best I can with this position. But when there's coming up more things on this agenda, I'm going to vote the way I think we need to vote, actuarially, not to make a friend in that round. So thank you, Bruce. I've talked to you over the years. I was on the board with you for 3 years of the last lawsuit. And that lawsuit, by the way, you paid, all of you and I paid $250,000 in legal fees. $125,000 for them and $125,000 for us. But is that a silly way to spend money? And he just said if we spent $100,000, we could recoup some of these lots and then sell them. They're marketable. The Chamber of Commerce is doing a good job here. We're trying to expand opportunities. We're trying to get people in. And I was a driver for NRPI too. It was a good job at $10 an hour. And it cost NRPI $2,000 a couple to bring people in. They had them at the Embassy Suites. Really nice hotel. Love it. They flew them in from all over the country. And I was told it cost $2,000 a couple. So they sell a lot for $20,000 that might only be worth $8,000. Boy, they're making money like crazy. And then they went out of business and they left us holding the bag, holding the line. So that's all water over the bridge, whatever you want to call it. But I think we've got to make some real strong decisions here. And I think, Bruce, I really appreciate you doing that. I've depended on you for trying to explain to me. And you and I even went through some of these COSL and then brought them to the district staff and Mr. Presley. We only got $6,700, but that was $6,700 we got back that we wouldn't have gotten back if we hadn't worked on it. Just trying to think.
Okay, moving right along.
Any question?
No, not right now. We're gonna take care of business. You can do it after.
No, Mr. Larson was speaking, and I have a question.
We need to progress with our
I
agenda.
know you do,
Okay, all
but
right.
that's not how it works, Mr.
Let
Sherlock.
me tell you how it works.
No.
Yes, it does.
Not to me, you won't.
Okay. Let us get on with this business and then we'll have public comments.
No.
In just a minute.
When
Ask your question. Go up and ask your question.
I can tell you from experience, people can hear us from our seats. Sure. Mr. Larson, with what you were explaining about has, whatever Jennifer has up there. $130,000 was spent in 2023 for legal people to pursue this list. So with what they have done for the district, where does it fit into your discussion about what's up here?
The work that, I think that was a combination of the title search and the lawyers,
Yes,
and that prosecuted the foreclosure. So that gave us title to those lots. But the trouble is, most of them have 5 years of back taxes. So unless we satisfy those back taxes, the state will sell them at auction and we'll no longer own them.
so in your opinion, because I am asking you, that money spent, there's a part of that that's a necessity. I understand that part. But in this bigger picture that you're putting up here for us to hear, is money well spent also, or is it something that has to be spent? I'm sort of confused in that part.
I think that part of the problem is that there was such a lag. Back in the old days when I was on the board, we would complete a foreclosure within 2 years of when it became delinquent. And then the back taxes were fairly modest. And the district always paid those back taxes and then gave the lot to the developer to sell. And he would pay the ongoing taxes. For some reason, the district got way behind. So now most of the lots that they foreclosed on have been delinquent for 3, 4, 4 or 5, 6 years, 7 years. The one that I showed you there of mine, I think, was 7 years delinquent. And then the back taxes are also that delinquent, so it's a big. Going forward, I think the district ought to continue to foreclose. I think it'd be money well spent so long as you pay those back taxes. And if you do it promptly, the back taxes are modest. A few $100s, not $500, $600, $700, $800. But
And it takes an army of researchers, like the legal people, to perform that task. You're not gonna do it for us, right?
yeah,
Okay. I sort of got that impression. So, what has been done in 2023 by, trust me, IFOI, I got the numbers. All of those people are necessary to get to the point with what you're, or can we ditch them?
now, I think we need to use our lawyers. We're getting caught up, and we need to continue, and we need to stay on top of it. And we're gonna have to pay those back taxes, which is, we shouldn't look at that as an expense, that's an investment. Paying the lawyers and the title searches is just an expense that's ongoing, unless you break the cycle. And the only way you can break the cycle is if you pay those back taxes, have clear title, you can hold them without any tax liability, so they can just sit there at no expense to you.
Make a plan to, somehow figure out how we can put a stop to this vicious circle.
And the first decision comes up in July with probably 200 lots. Do you pay the back taxes or do you let them go back into the site? I'm guessing that those 135 lots that were sold at auction last year are already delinquent. You could file foreclosure tomorrow on those. Get them quick before they have built up a bunch of back taxes.
We need to attack the problems that are starting today and then go back and figure out a plan to do something with the ones that are we need to work backwards is what I'm trying to say. And see what we can do about, and maybe find out exactly what our back taxes are gonna be on this group that we're closing on, and make a decision whether or not to pay them. You know, I think there's things we can do to get started on,
Could be,
get out of this mess.
yes. Okay, we're going to proceed here. Old business, we have none. New business, we have the approval of the agreement for, Mr. Larson, to act as interim manager. I have a motion to approve me to sign this. I make a motion. All in, any discussion? All in
Why don't you read it to us first,
Okay,
please? Tell everybody what it is.
okay, this is an agreement. The Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Board of Commissioners, hereinafter referred to as the DOC, is entering into an agreement with Bruce Larson to provide the service of the duties of the district manager for the BOC. The BOC shall compensate Mr. Larson at the rate of $30 per hour. Mr. Larson shall provide this service 3 days a week until a permanent district manager is hired to fill the position. Mr. Larson shall carry out these duties and report to the BOC.
Thank you.
Any comments? All in favor?
Uh,
Okay. Approve the finances of December and January. We got both copies. Did anybody have a chance to look at those?
I move that we discuss it and possibly approve those on discussion of both.
I'll second that. Say, we're going to table it and everybody second. Second, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was brown and wrinkly.
This, and maybe you want to do this, you don't want to do this, but this is where I think we dropped the ball, the five of us on board, because we saw the graphs, we saw the pie graphs, and over the years, I've seen the pie graphs and other kind of graphs, and we were over budget, but it looked like it was really good on the pie graphs because our assessments were, especially in September, October, and it looked like we saw the fire department, we saw the rec center, we saw all the different departments, and then we took a look at the amount keep in reserve, and when it was 43% instead of 35, which is our rule, then we spent it on other things, like dump trucks and like fire trucks. And those are good things. I'm not saying we don't need fire trucks, folks, but do we need 3 of them? Could we afford 3 of them? Do we need a dump truck for $68,000? Or should we change the transmission on that truck for $10,000? Some of those kinds of questions. So when we have the financials up on the screen and big enough that you can all read them, and then maybe you can make comment on them too. We appreciate your comments, I do. That's where you very, very skillfully put this together of the bad shape we're in. We don't have a lot of money. It was said when we signed a contract with the new rec center with plenty of money. We sold a cell phone lot, so that was supposed to pay for stuff. We've spent way more than a cell phone lot costs. And by the way, we're not getting that every year, about 30,000. So when we're over budget, I don't know if our system of showing it on the screen or showing it in the printout. And even Jennifer Head, who's a CPA, agreed that we are over budget, like Bruce just very well put. So, Bruce, maybe you can help Larry, being in the county. We've got a lot of red marks up there, and I can't see them here, but I got my sheet. I've got mine.
What is that?
But sometimes we're not able to do them in the time that we have in the meeting. But if anybody has any comments, I'd like to hear from you.
Mr. Brown, Commissioner, the financial reports are not the budget. And I say, I'm not sure. A budget is a projection.
Right,
It's not set in stone.
correct.
You start your family budget and all of a sudden you need 4 new tires for $1,000 and it blows up your budget. We spent a lot of money last year on fire department equipment. For the benefit of the community, we assumed, I'm not sure that ISO was that big of a deal, but it did prompt us to update all of our equipment, our apparatus, and we're in good shape on that now. But as far as the financials go, I don't see any reason why we can't approve them as printed, because there's nothing wrong with the financial. I mean, you can have a quarrel with the budget.
Well,
But-
I don't, we're. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
But from January of '23 to December of '23, and then in December of '23, we approved the budget for this year, and we're in the end of the second month now, February 26th. Something was happening January, February, March, April, that was causing this to happen. What Bruce just brought up was causing this to happen, and we didn't realize it, or we didn't know about it, or we ignored it. So why are we in the position we're in now if everything was a projection, but our projections were faulty?
Well, yes, we spent, the fire department was over $300,000 over the budget. And you can't blame that on, I mean,
No.
all I'm saying is, we should have revisited the budget last year. I didn't understand, and I don't know why we didn't have an interim meeting to review the budget. But our budget for 2024 is done. If you want to make changes to it, when we get our new district manager, there's no reason why we can't have a full review of that budget and bring it out and amend it. But the budget is done.
Good.
And-
Look, Phyllis, and let me ask this, and I like Larry and Bruce. If we had 300,000 for the fire equipment, and I voted on every one of those, and I voted again, another 300,000. But we have to find that 300,000. If we have a $4.7 million budget, and the 300,000 makes us go to 5 million, we're in trouble, aren't we, Bruce?
Well,
May I make a comment, a couple comments? I've spent some time with our accountant Jennifer, and my opinion so far is she's very competent and helpful, does a good job. Does a good job. Some of the things you're talking about are the capital thing. I don't have so much quarrel with that. It's the operating expenses versus operating income
okay.
that to me is really the issue you need to get into
Yeah.
balance. Okay.
I would like to point out one thing. When we worked on this budget last year, we had well over $2 million in the money market account, unrestricted, unencumbered funds. And I said it before, we don't get paid to sit on $2 million. Or we weren't elected to sit on $2 million. And the 2023 budget took into account that we would spend down those funds. The 700,000+ from the cell tower is sitting in restricted funds in our account. So there's $700,000 there that we haven't spent yet. And that's dedicated to the water well, to the well repair. And we did the budget and divided that close to $1 million expectation into 2 years, into 24 and 20. But we do have 3/4 of the funds sitting in a restricted account that will take care of that. So that's an aspect of it. The thing I have said more than once is that there's no place on the budget to say transfer from the money market fund. And when you look at that excess balance, which it has been drawn down, and I'll admit that, but when you look at those expenses, look at those numbers, we're not, on a cash basis, we are not in terrible shape, I don't think. And that's my opinion, having looked at it,
If,
a long time last year.
we can get back to order here. First of all, we're approving the financials that have already happened.
Amen.
That's for January and December. And we had a motion and had a second. And now we're talking about budgets. Let's get back to approving the financial statement.
But I have one more question, Mr. Chair, and that is, I saw in the Holiday Island News on Friday that we were looking for another person in the roads department. If this is an operating budget, should we as a board, freeze that position? And just like, should we, freeze that position? Hey, let's say it's $50,000 for salary and benefits. Is that the kind of thing that the board of commissioners or the district manager, we haven't had one since December? They can see it, and we're going forward with interim, and then we're gonna hire them. But is that what the board should do, or is that the district manager's responsibility to hold a line on spending? That's what I'm asking. I'm a board member, I was elected, man. I'm elected. So,
He
let
just
me
said that
speak.
you approved the financials, and I did not hear that vote.
Let
We
me
have-
speak.
We haven't voted on it yet.
We're talking about that.
That's because we're off track.
Yeah.
Now, if we could get back on track, we'll approve the financial statements as presented, okay? It's already happened. We're not gonna change that by budgeting or anything else. Let's get back on track, okay? So, I've got a motion and a second, and
And I have a question.
All,
all in favor, say
I
aye.
get to ask this question,
Motion passed.
and you need to figure out your rules, because I got to ask a question before you voted. That's how it works.
Ma'am, we'll take your questions, and we got to move on with this.
I know
okay?
that, like I don't have a life too,
Okay, then, I'm sorry.
so you need to tell me that you have on. And I get January financials, and I'm asking, before you take the vote, what was the December financial number?
What was the number?
Yes, what's the final number? Is this also the year-to-date number?
we addressed that last month, it's a.
Yeah, and Jennifer was gonna be here today for this presentation, and she's not here, so I'm asking you. Is it on that screen? I can't read that screen.
Is this the one?
I don't know what you're looking for. Do you know
I'm
what
looking
that-
at year-to-date.
You want to know what the year-to-date profit and loss was?
I wanna know the final number that you're gonna turn into the county that you told me at the last meeting I attended when Jennifer was here. That's what you would be doing.
I'd have to,
Hasn't the audit report been filed?
it's been filed.
I'm not talking about the audit.
Mr. Chairman, can we
That
get back
man
to
stood
the,
here and said he filed
Yes, we can.
separate.
We're good. Ma'am, I'm sorry. We're gonna get back. in here, okay?
I'm
Now,
going home to finish my FOI.
Have a good time.
thank you.
Yeah, the state appreciates.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, the next item on the agenda is to
Mr.
consider
Larson,
the
this stuff
actions
has not changed.
discussing the leasing of the Country Club restaurant.
I move that we discuss this, item and possibly approve for leasing.
Okay? Did I hear something that? Any discussion on that?
Yes. I listened to the workshop discussion, and, this was one of the things I was gonna comment on anyway. The grill is an amenity for the benefit of the property owners and their guests. And I've lived here for 12 years, and it would take me both hands to count the number of restaurants that have gone under. we've had everything from ice cream parlors and coffee shops to more upscale sit-down restaurants have failed. Sunfest Deli and El Mariachi are the only long-term survivors. And I am opposed to leasing the restaurant because I think in 6 or 8 months, the leasing is gonna say, I can't make this work.
Well, I have a comment. I gave a guy a tour the other day of the restaurant, and we sat for an hour, hour and a half downstairs, talking about the amenity and what we could do to make this thing. We gotta advertise it more, we gotta promote it more, but we can make that, with that golf course, we can make this thing work. And one thing you're not gonna lose, right now, we're, if we, at 108,000. Now, we could close the business today and add 100,000 to our budget. Because we wouldn't be losing. So if you wanna continue losing money, Phyllis, all we gotta do is be opposed to this. I'm not opposed. I think it's absolutely have to, because it's not ran like a business. I'm there every day.
I would say, I also heard that more than once, run it like a business. And
Have you ever been in business?
I
You don't go into business to lose money. And that's what they're doing right now.
well, except what I found an article in Forbes, and the title is Why Government Should Not Be Run Like a Business. And it was written by an economist from TCU. And the upshot of it is, not everything that is profitable is of social value. And not everything that is of social value is profitable. And a municipality, the proper role of a government is to provide social value. And we don't have profit and loss, we have amenities and expenses, revenue and expenses. But
You can make that amenity make money. If we lease that thing out and to a person, and we don't have a responsibility for that loss, and we do it for a year, and then he'll know at the end of that year where he's at. And if we can discuss things that make that thing improve, and we can bring more, the public will still have access to it, because remember, it's not private. And right now, we close the place at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't have any kind of a bar in there. We don't have any food. The other day I was there, and I just was in there for pickups, and I don't know what I came over for, to pick up something, I can't remember. And there were 4 people working in there. 4 people. And there wasn't one person other there. And that day, there was raining, and the golf course, there was nobody there. So what we're doing, that's why we have 146,000 in overhead, in labor, and we had not even 100,000 income. So we lost $100,000. So if we continue that, 5 years from now, we're gonna have a $500,000 loss.
Sure, I had another comment about the golf consultant who was here a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. $5,000 to look at the total golf course and country club operation. His recommendation was that we move the starter post, whatever you want to call it, where you go in and pay fees, and move it down to room A, which is a big room that a lot of people use, and it's right across from tee box number 1. His idea, and I've heard him report here a couple times in this room, that we could better manage the golf course by seeing who's on there and making sure people are paying and so forth. But I think the bigger reason, he had talked about the restaurant at a country club, and if we use that area that's now being used for golf shirts and golf balls and so forth, that we can expand from the dining room, larger area, which would be more profit, more business. And his recommendation was to close the driving range, which we did, and there's other recommendations. Raise the prices on golf 20%. It used to be $750 on a golf fee, which we're going to talk about later, and now it's $900 for a single person. We followed a lot of his recommendations. Do we have a country club, or do we have a pro shop diner? And if we have a pro shop diner for burgers and stuff, then let's continue, as Phyllis said, have it as a amenity and everybody can get together after church there, 30, 40 people in there, and it's a real fun time, and I like the food there. But if we're looking at it with $100,000 loss, maybe we could take that 100,000 that we're losing and buy the lots and pay the back taxes that Bruce just explained very well. But we're not in the business of, we don't give away free golf anymore. That was just a lost leader to get people to buy lots here 50 years ago. Let's run a business. If we're gonna have a lost leader, then let's tell everybody, okay. But, and I also agree with John Stafford. Our cooks up there do a wonderful job. I can get a full breakfast for $7 in about 8 minutes. That's but free electric, free water, free rent, social benefit, then fine. If we had somebody leasing it, they would pay the electricity, the water, and pay rent. And I had a call yesterday from somebody who wanted to talk for about an hour, and I thought they would be public comment about it, but I guess they're waiting to see if we're going to put out a request for the police. He was here earlier.
He was here earlier and left.
The big guy that's sitting over here.
Yes, that's the guy that owns the farmhouse.
Okay.
Okay.
In the restaurant business.
Right. Okay, but, do I have a motion to consider, that we go out for bid?
I'll make a motion.
I hear a second.
I'll second it.
May I comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It seems to me that you probably want to request proposal.
Good. That's exactly right.
So they would, tell how they're gonna operate it, et cetera.
That's right.
Yeah.
Walk through, like I did a couple days ago.
I think another issue with the restaurant is first, we don't charge near enough.
Now, all right, hang on a second.
Can I make some comments?
Sure. Yeah, might as well.
It's discussion.
Might as well.
It's part of the,
No, you don't.
it's part of the agenda.
Y'all don't have to tell me that I'm cutting my own throat when I make something. My name's Al Selleck, 22 Buckskin Lane. I've done a little restaurant business my years, in my early years, my worked for Walgreens, a lot of us used to have Walgreens rolls and such, so. But now you wanna close the restaurant or, lease it out. You're gonna put the check in for the golf downstairs. Remember, you're not gonna save that whole $100,000 because you're gonna have extra staffing downstairs. Right now, you got one person that's taking orders and checking out the golf at the same time, so you're gonna have extra staffing downstairs. Before you make big decisions on closing it, maybe you should check the pricing. Like you just mentioned how inexpensive breakfast is. I don't think we wanna go to a $12 breakfast or a $14 downtown Eureka Springs breakfast, but maybe 8's a little bit too low. Maybe if the breakfast a little bit more, and I love to go there myself, but when you get, my wife and I are getting breakfast and all the coffee you can drink and put $1 or $2 in the jar and it's still under $20, maybe the pricing needs to come up and you wouldn't be losing $100,000. If you are gonna lease it out, or maybe the ambiance, that was be enhanced. We have a manager there, but he really has had no supervision. Restaurants in the clubhouse, or the bathrooms in the clubhouse, should look like the bathrooms in your home. Like I said, I ran a lot of restaurants. But I had a district manager. He would come in, and he was, like a white glove boy. You want to check if the bathroom's clean in a restaurant? Next time you go in a restaurant, run your finger above the door casing, because that's the spot that never gets clean. But look at the faucets. Is there no grunge around the faucet? Are they shined? Are they polished? You're going to lease this out to somebody to make it like a country club atmosphere. You'd have to do a lot to that building to make it a country club atmosphere. Yes, I do agree that we should not be losing $100,000 as amenity, but maybe there's things that just not being properly done. It's promoted to the public, and a lot of people think, you talk about going to the clubhouse to eat, they say, well, yeah, but I don't golf. I don't have a golf membership. the public needs to know more that it's open to the public. Look at the hours, some know. You know, they open at 9 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. A lot of people already have breakfast. We used to go up there on Friday for Rotaries, there was about, you know, 4 of us came in, and there was another group, just local people that came in for breakfast afterwards. There's 4 of them, so that's 8 people in that hour. Now they open at 9 because it's off season. I guess, you know, nobody golfs in the rest of the year, so just.
And then like everybody eats early.
They close, you know, they're closing at 5, except for, you know, Fridays and Saturdays, we're having suppers, but now we don't have suppers. But I just think there's a lot of things you really wanna look at before you just make the decision. Just, you know, try to, if you can find somebody to lease it out, great, but just keep these other little things in mind.
My comment would be entertaining a proposal to take it over. After we get the proposals, there might not be anything we can even do. We might still have our restaurants.
Right.
We can seek proposals, but it might not be beneficial at all to us.
Saying that some things that could be looked at now with the establishment that you have to maybe trim that 100,000 rather than just, you know, if you can lease it out, great.
Well, there's other aspects with leasing out the restaurant area. Number one, pro shop would be open down below. It would be monitoring the golf. It would be open more for golf. It would still be there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the summertime and not shutting it down because there's nobody there to take your money. The whole operation is, it's overstaffed for what it is and understaffed for what it should be. And so therefore, look at the possibility of leasing out the restaurant hall, taking all the stuff out of there, put it down in the pro shop, establishing the pro shop as the consultant suggested, then we're gonna be better off. We'll be better off and we'll probably end up making more money because the golf course will be open. We can open it up. We can promote it. It should be promoted. It's, get some people in there. I've talked with Lauren about this and he's agreeable. He's agreeable to leasing it out so he can run the pro shop and the golf course. We've got to promote, or else we're just, how much do you want to pay for an amenity? Whenever there's no need to pay for that amenity. You make some money. Thank you very much. Now, we have that question for
I also wanted to mention, Laurie, that I think we need to take a look at the building on maintenance. I talked to Lauren about several things. One is bump in the sidewalk or coming out. I was up there for a concert and somebody stumbled over that. It's just like the rec center. You don't take care of buildings, you don't take care of maintenance, it's gonna come back and by lawsuits or whatever. The restroom, Linda, you mentioned that before in this meeting, the restrooms right by the starter table, bad. We talked about the doors for, that was my career for many years, working with disabled people. If you, another possible lawsuit, we need to do that. And the air conditioners, the paint in the ballroom, you mentioned, Doug, about leasing it out every week for a wedding. We need to put some money into that.
we're getting off key here. All right, we're talking about operations. We're talking about leasing it out.
And the restaurant, Larry, the restaurant is part of the whole building.
Do we have approval to go out to try to get someone to come in here and make us an offer? Seconded, let's vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we got that approved.
Aye.
I think the next thing on here is fees.
Mr. Chairman, is it up to the district manager now to prepare a solicitation request for proposal?
Yep. Yep, it is.
All right, thank you.
And the next discussion is a fee structure. I have received a letter, I think most of it, that they call it a petition. petition to revert back to the family pool passes. I think all of this needs to be, number one, the golf course, the rec center, all need to be promoted. We need an activities director that will do things like pickleball tournaments, organize all this kind of stuff. We have a lot of use of it. Well, we don't have that much use of the pool, but we need to restructure everything and get it promoted. The golf course, all of our amenities, none of them are being promoted right now. And I think we need to do a study on the fee structures of what they are now and what they can be if we promote it more. Promotion will cause income, and income is what we're short on right now. And if we just sit on our hands and do nothing, it's not going to get any better, it's going to get worse. So I would think we need to consider and discuss action to take to restructure the fee structures that we have everywhere.
Larry, what was the letter? What was she asking for?
The letter, as a Holiday Island property owner, we are petitioning High City Board of Commissioners to please reconsider the charge that was made last year, 2023, to the family pool passes. This charge resulted in visiting children and grandchildren having to pay an extra to use the pool, and consequently, some of the property owners did not buy a pool pass. The $5 per person per day is prohibitive when one has several grandchildren visiting it for a few days. In previous years, the family pool pass included children and grandchildren, and we were requesting that be reinstated, which is more becoming of a retirement community. That was submitted by Barbara and Paul McLaughlin. There's Joe and Sandy Zeeby, Dean and Loretta Lambert. Anyway, there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 families and probably 20 more. I think it's prohibitive. I agree with that. I think we need to restructure the fee structure and make it simple. I think we need to go with punch cards. We got B&B out here, whether we want to have them or not, but we got them out here. I said, I'm sorry for this. I'm going to take a little time here. I was at the last meeting that IHOP had. We had chairs in a semicircle in front of the podium. And after they finished their meeting, they passed the mic around. How many people I heard say, yeah, we came down here and we stayed here at Holiday Island so that we could have our kids and stuff come in and we could go up to Branson, tour Branson and tour Eureka Springs and use the amenities and all this kind of stuff. And after about 3 years, this one lady said, you know what, we could live here. Why don't we think about that? And I don't know how many people said that going around that room. And we've got to make it pleasant for these people that are down here visiting and staying in these B&Bs to use the facilities and want to live here. That's how we grow the community. We're not going to grow it by prohibiting. But I think we need to take a long, hard look at the fee structure and revamp it to where it's usable and generate some funds.
I appreciate your comments, and I agree with you on many of them, until I got this from Bruce. And if we say at the beginning of the meeting, and he did a great job of pointing out where we are, dollars and cents. I don't think we can afford to cut fees any more than they are. I used to pay $10 a round for 9 holes, and I got a $100 punch card. Now that $10 is gone up to $25. I went and bought a $900 golf fee. Don't use it much, that's my fault. To go over there and the blue shirt uses his, and that blue shirt uses theirs just about every day, 6 days a week. Smart guy. They get the use out of their minute. But I'm wondering this year, if there were no punch card, whether I would golf again, I'm so bad. But the pool fee is the same thing. Well, it's different because the pool, a lot of the grandkids would not be playing golf where they want to go to our pool. It's not a public pool, it's a private Holiday Island pool for the residents and guests. I don't know, I think we spent hours and hours, Suzanne, you were here during that whole thing, hours and hours on whether there be Airbnb, or whether it be rentals, or whether it be the timeshares over there, how much they would pay. It got to be just too. But anyway, we've got that settled, and now we're getting more and more Airbnbs, so it's going to be a hearing in a couple of weeks, 20 or 30 more. So that's a big thing. So Larry,
That's why I would like to pursue, looking at it, to go over it, and come up with different ideas about what we can do. I'm not proposing that we cut the fees. I'm proposing that we promote the use. And that's what this is all about.
Mr. Chairman, I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of nights, if in summer, they play a Thursday night golf league on the 9-hole. If you don't have a season pass, for you and your wife to participate one night a week, is $65. Outrageous. To go out and play with your wife one night a week with a bunch of other people, $65 on the 9-hole. That doesn't make sense to me. That should be reduced, and if we use punch cards for homeowners and made the punch card $150 for 10 punches. From what I've seen, if guys playing with their wives on the 9-hole, they'll never use the whole 10 punches anyway. So it's not reducing fees. We'll actually have more volume.
Got a quick comment.
Yes.
Just one quick comment. I understand that as a grandfather, I have 2 grandchildren, and I understand that you have to pay the $5. I get that. The thing is, where else could you take your 2 grandchildren, your 3 grandchildren, for $10, $15 a day? You know,
Yeah.
try taking them to Silver Dollar City. It's that cost you a couple $100. $15, $20 a day is hardly anything. So I'm with Ken. You know, we just don't need to reduce it. I'm all for people taking their grandchildren there. I take my grandchildren there. But for the few dollars we're asking for, it's nothing. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave you some fun numbers, and I can figure this. 70% of our revenue comes from the assessment of benefits, and 30% comes from amenities. And any reduction in our amenity fees is money out of our pocket that everyone is so concerned about our well-being. So I am opposed to eliminating any fees from any of these categories. We worked hard last year, and we 3 were on the board, and Ms. Childers was on the board, to simplify it. This is as simple as you can get. There's nothing complicated about this process. I would also say the problem with the punch card is that is offering people a discount for a convenience, and that's not the way you run a business. If you're offering a convenience, you ought to be paying full price for your punch card. Also, I'm looking here, property owner green fees for 9 holes, $20. Park rental, $15, $35 to play golf for 9 holes for a property owner. I don't think it's unreasonable.
The reason I brought this up is, number one, we have about over 50 Airbnbs or Verbos or whatever you want to call them. They're short-term rentals.
Vacation rentals.
Okay, out here. We need to offer to those people a deal for the amenities. Right now, we're charging, if they wanted to get a rental property owner's permit swimming is $300.
Mhm.
Well, let them pay a daily fee. But why do we penalize the people that have the houses $300 so that they can go up there and pay the daily fee?
Cause they're making the money.
Well, not,
They-
they're not gonna use it, they're not paying us the $300.
So then who's using, are they using the pool, just not using the pool?
They're just not using it.
Okay, it's all right. They're not heating up our chemicals and taking up space that maybe
There's
the
always-
residents would
it's all
like
the
to have.
This is gonna be a marathon meeting evidently.
Yeah, we're gonna have to pit stop here in a minute.
Larry, perhaps we should move this to a work session this whole.
I think we should, I think we
Can I
should.
make a,
I can see this is gonna take a while.
Well,
can I
I,
just make a comment about the fee structure? Last year, we went through that whole thing, and somebody said about the family passes not being bought because of the fee cost and the grandchildren. But really, I have a whole bunch of pages, everybody that came in signs in. I didn't see any drop in people buying their passes because of the fee structure. It was because of the facilities. They didn't have a restroom close to them. They had to come into it was just different, okay, because of the construction going on or the lack of construction. So they had to use the island room. So basically that's what probably kept people away. As far as this fee structure, when you have your VRBOs and Airbnbs, the person who owns that house pays for that 300 fee, which gives the people who rent it the privilege of using the pool, but they came in as a guest fee or a regular fee and paid $5 per person. Children under 7 or 7 and under were free, and a lot of them come with little kids. But there are a lot of VRBOs that do walk in there and they sit there all day long and use the facilities. But the person who owns the building that they're in is actually making the money. We're not getting anything from them. And a lot of the VRBOs come in
We
and
charge them
stay.
$300 to send them down there to pay us.
Correct, so that they can swim,
But
and then they can use all
anyway,
the other
We're
facilities.
gonna table this, we're gonna have it to a work session.
May I make my one comment that I asked?
Everybody, we'll take it wide open.
Suzanne Childers, 12 Country Club. Bruce said a lot of the stuff that I was going to say, actually. It doesn't take long sitting on the board to understand that there are many things that need to be taken care of. I agree with almost everything that was said about maintenance that needs to happen. I agree with everything about promotion that needs to happen. But we have limited ways to raise income. You can only adjust your AOB very infrequently and not by very much. We have the risk all the time of people foreclosing on lots and not paying, so actually your income goes down. The prices that we set for the swimming pool and the golf course were all based on what the market would bear, because you can't go above the market or people won't come. I know that last year, looking at what I saw, the last set of financials I saw, we made $23,000 at the rec center. That's not a lot of money in a $4.7 million budget, but you know what? That buys a heck of a bunch of pool chemical, and it pays for labor costs also. So I do not.
We spent $123,000 in labor to collect that $23,000.
True. But that's also part of the reason that you pay your AOB is to help support those kind of things, the golf course, the rec center, the roads, all that kind of thing. That's where your AOB money goes to. But I would be very cautious before you consider reducing any of the fees. If you go on vacation, every one of us goes on vacation, expects to spend money while we're on vacation. So I don't think you would want to reduce your fees. Thank you.
Okay.
One more quick question,
Okay.
Larry, I'm gonna give you some information that might help you. Don Howes, 68 Hillsburg, I'm chairman of the planning committee. We are approving the short-term rentals. So far, Suzanne, we've approved maybe 50 or 60 so
About
far.
65,
About 65
and we
so
have more
far.
to do.
We're expecting roughly between 200 and 250 VRBOs. altogether. That's what we're expecting. So if you have $300, if you can talk these people in, these homeowners that are renting these things out, to pay their $300 times 200, $60,000 is what you're looking at. So I don't know that you need to reduce it, but you guys should think about it. But just for your information, we're expecting somewhere between 200 and 250 VRBOs altogether. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just putting on top.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
May I make one really quick comment? Seems to me this is a heck of a time to be discussing this subject. You've already published them, the 24 rates on the website. People have already paid. Some people have already paid.
That's what I was just going to say. I think we should leave the schedule as you presented here. If we want to work on it over the next year, that's fine. We don't need another workshop right now. All we need to do is approve this as published. And we're already collecting money, if I understand correctly. I'm gonna go over there and pay mine today, I guess, but, we need to, you can't kick this can down the road. This is published, it's ready to go. The rec center, the sports complex is gonna start getting people in wanting to pay their pool fees. And, we worked real hard last year to reprice this, and we raised the prices a pretty healthy amount. And I think we can be justified in leaving it as is and, rethink it on down the road before the end of the year.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. Sorry, Andrea Rolfe, 24 Buckskin Lane. I want to address the old issue of golf passes. I'm a resident, obviously, my husband is on the BLC. I used to own punch cards. I bought 2 punch cards for 2 years with 10 punches on them. I did not play golf 10 times each of those years. You made money on me because I bought a punch card. I understand Mrs. Surratt's idea about tabling what you've already decided on, but I would like you to consider to add punch cards because I firmly believe there are more people like me who would buy a punch card, not use all the punches, and you would have made money.
I know I bought a punch card, last year, bought one, and I am a property owner, and I pay my dues, and I bought the props, so when I had somebody company, we could go play golf. And I didn't have to tell them, hey, you're gonna pay $85 to play 18 holes. I said, hey, I'll furnish the golf, when you come down, we're gonna play. And we used the whole punch card up.
We did away with the punch card, and I think that's something that we need to revisit, and that's why I think we need a work session on revisiting it. Now, can I have a motion on that?
You have a
What's the motion? State the motion.
So that we're going to have a work session on looking at the punch card fee.
That doesn't require a motion.
We will do a work session?
Yes.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Now, the next action
Well,
here is.
are we going to leave our fees the same? We had a motion on the table to discuss the fee schedule.
We're going to, yeah,
And so we need to vote on that.
we did, we just now did it. We're going to
We
we're
voted
basically
on it.
tabling it to a work session. Okay,
Was that a vote?
that's what we just voted.
That's just what we voted. Did you vote?
The next item on the agenda is consideration and action discussing the returning of the outdoor pool deck.
Can we take a break, please, Mr. Chairman? 5 minutes.
Yeah, we take 5 minutes break.